You're going to die. And finally he said, Mrs. Haney, because I have a different name as mom. Mrs. Haney, I'm terrified of the thought that I'm going to die, and I would like you to stop mentioning it to me. And I said, okay, I'll put it on a cake. A birthday cake. But that's getting ahead of ourselves with one of Camus' points. Okay, so we don't want to think about that. We want to live in habit because thinking is the most dangerous thing we do. I'm a very dangerous person if I'm doing my job in a philosophy classroom. You're very dangerous people in the world if you're being philosophical. You are a dangerous person because you're going to make people think, and they're not going to want to. Sometimes you have to make yourself think. You don't want to. All right. So the reason we don't want to think is because we end up thinking about things that make us feel very uncomfortable and very undermined. And when those thoughts come to us, because we tend not to sit down and welcome them, I think today I'd like to spend a half hour thinking about death. And possibly the long period of suffering and illness and pain that will precede it, unless I'm hit by a bus, which has its own problems. Number 8, Asia BD. I come at last to death. One will never be sufficiently surprised that everyone lives as if no one knew. What did you take that to mean?
I think we kind of came up with that people don't understand death until it's actually experienced.
And by the time we experience it,
We're dead.
and so we don't really experience it. Right?
So, yeah.
I mean, we might experience some degree of the anxiety of it when someone close to us dies or is dying. Right? Do you guys know the poem by Gerard Manley Hopkins called Spring and Fall to a Young Child? I love that poem. And it's a poem about the fall and the leaves falling and a little child sobbing and walking through the forest and looking at all the leaves dying. And the last 2 lines of the poem are, it is the blight that man is born for. It is Margaret you mourn for. The little girl that, Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove on leaving, over the trees? And what Hopkins is saying is, you're not crying for the trees alone. You're crying for the knowledge that everything must die, and too soon. And that is the thing that makes Camus feel, going back to what Mary said, about feeling like he's never quite where everyone else is, or he doesn't quite fit in the same way that other entities, other beings seem to fit in the universe. He feels like he's around a lot of people who are acting as if they don't know how it's going to end. Do you guys ever feel that way? Or are you the people who act like you don't know how it's going to end and you're fine with that, so stop talking? Kate, you were kind of shaking your head, yes. So do you ever have that experience of, well, okay, here's a stupid example. The other day, my daughter and her friend were over. And they, I don't approve, deliberately sat down and watched an hour of mindless television. Because they both had really hard days, and their only requirement was it had to be mindless. And I was like, I quoted Henry David Thoreau, you can't kill time without injuring eternity. Shut up. Okay? And I was in the kitchen, and the show that they ended up watching was some episode of a reality show starring, if you can't believe this, Lindsay Lohan. Okay? Lindsay Lohan is supposedly sober and blah, blah, blah. At least for the hour I was seeing those things, she's not. There's not even a chance. But at one point when she had screwed up in all kinds of different ways and made everyone else's life more difficult and lied to everybody and lied to herself, and one of the women who was supposed to do something with her that didn't get done because she didn't show up, just looked at the camera and said, if I ever have a daughter, I'm going to tell her, don't waste your life like this. And I thought, that's kind of philosophical. You guys missed it. This is not totally mindless TV. You know, because this woman was saying, if I ever have a daughter, I would say, don't waste the one life you have. And so this is an example of a woman who was clearly in an environment where everyone's acting as if they had 9 lives. They had lots of chances to pursue that relationship, or travel to that city, or undertake that work, or create that poem, or whatever it is. From Camus' perspective, we all seem to act as if we have all the time in the true. Time is limited and very, very poignant, but we don't act like we know that. Because it's uncomfortable to know that, which gets back to the being undermined theory, right? Now, getting back to Laura and Jenny, we get into the habit of living before acquiring the habit of thinking. This is the part where Camus starts talking about the absurd. In other words, as we're reading these 16 pages, we are noticing that Camus starts out by saying, we live by habit. Okay? And you know, we kind of unconsciously choose that. Because habit, we like habit. Habit keeps us from thinking. And thinking is a very undermining project. And not just about death. When we think about anything. You know, am I really a good friend? Am I doing a good job in my work? Did that encounter with a student go badly? No, we want to think. Thinking is, makes us anxious. That's not one of the quotes I signed, but what is the quote that Camus says? Mere anxiety, as Heidegger says, is at the source of everything. And so, we like habit because it keeps us from thinking, but then, he says, the stage sets collapse. Something happens. And it doesn't have to be something cataclysmic. It doesn't have to be, oh, there's a tornado and now my house is gone. Or there was a fire and my house burned down. It doesn't have to be anything major. It can be something very daily and prosaic. But something happens to break the chain of habits. Have you ever had that experience? You're kind of going through your life and it's good, you're not thinking too much, and then suddenly you kind of look around and you look at yourself and you say, like the man in the suit at Marriott's Great America, I don't get the point of this. Have you ever had that experience? You have, Kate? Can you recall a specific instance?
Oh boy, there could be a lot.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I don't know. I guess my parents got divorced.
Okay, yeah. It's like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
What's this? What? Yeah, it's like, okay, we were on this sort of plane, and things were going like this, and this is how our student was going to be, and now it's not going to be like that at all. And I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when a child or a young adult goes through the parents divorcing, it doesn't just radically alter the present, but it probably really alters how you see the past. Like, we weren't happy. I thought we were happy. Yeah, so that can be very jarring. So what's this about? What is this about? What's going on here? I mean, a really kind of simple and ordinary example for me is one time back before we had the Butler Center, because that's how long I've been here. I used to belong to Lifetime Fitness, which my friend used to call Lifetime Fatness. But I went steadily for 2 whole weeks. And I remember one day being on the treadmill, and I don't know if you've ever seen this setup, but there's all these TV screens, and then there are all these treadmills, and there's all these people on the treadmill. And I was just kind of looking around, and I suddenly saw all these people walking fast, going nowhere.
I've thought that so many times.
Have you, Cody?
Yes.
Yes, isn't it almost like
You're all on little hamster wheels.
I know, it's like the wheel.
So weird.
I
Yeah.
never thought of that. Yes.
Yep.
And it's like we're doing this supposedly purposeful activity, but we've taken all the purpose out of it.
Not doing anything.
We're going nowhere. The visuals are so powerful. Why am I dressed in these funny shorts in the basement of a building, running, going nowhere? Well, Entertainment Today is on TV. And that's, it's not, I didn't quit because I was lazy. I quit because I had an existential moment. Yes, sure. But those, and I mean, Camus talks about sometimes that moment will be as simple as you see people from a distance, maybe on the highway, you look down at cars on the highway, and you say, where do y'all think you're going? What for? It can be something more like what Kate went through, you know. I had a friend who, when she was pregnant with her child, we had a mutual friend who was also pregnant with her child, and both were very happy and excited. And with the other girl, she had miscarriage. And so, you know, it was like, well, why? We were both so excited, and now, why? Why? Everything I thought was true about life isn't true because I don't see why this had to happen. Or sometimes he says you can see yourself reflected in the mirror, right? Or a window. And you have this whole vision of how you look and what you're, and then you see yourself accidentally, you're like, oh my God, who's that weird person? Oh, it's me. You're gesticulating or something. It's like, you know, that looks so foolish. Another moment that's almost kind of literal. Have any of you ever done theater, like crew or anything in a high school play? You have, Cody? Yeah? Okay, well, you probably know enough about theater. And maybe, well, if you've ever been the audience of a production, have you ever had something go wrong in front of you? It's much more stressful when you're in the company. But I mean, I remember one time coming in for Act 2 in a play that my daughter was actually stage managing, and the overture stopped, and the lights didn't come up. So I'm like mother of the stage manager, so I'm like, wow, this is probably a 20-minute glitch. 20-second, 30-second, minute. Now people are starting to look around, who's talking? What do we do? How do we act? I don't know. This is getting uncomfortable, someone do something! But it was like a minute and a half before the lights came up. Before the lights came up on the stage, and man, that anxiety, that sense of, why are we sitting in the dark watching other people pretend to be people that